Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. And this is the place where writers like to gather together, talk about writing, all things writers, by writers, and for writers. So we're glad to see everybody today. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm joined today by my fellow co-hosts, Bethany Jett and Johnny Alexander. And so and we got a lot of our regular crew in the chat that I could see and that is signing in. So it's great to see everybody. And thank you for those of you that take the time to watch the replay every week. We are so glad to have that. It's such a good community to grow and learn and share with one another. So thank you. We have a special guest today, and I get the honor of introducing her because not only is she very, very special lady, she is a sister in Christ and has been a mentor for me for a number of years, and that is Shelley Hitz. Hi, Shelley. Welcome.
Hi, Jean. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you here. Well, I think we had you several years ago, so it's great to have you back again.
Yeah, it's nice to be back.
Yeah. So I thought I could just give a little bit of a background on Shelley, and then we'll see what else she wants to add to her story on that. And because some of you, especially in the chat or watching the replay, may not know all about Shelley, but like I use the word mentor. She has been my mentor, and she's a mentor to a lot of Christian writers and inspirational that way. And I love her tagline that she empowers you to share your story in creative ways by publishing books, creating art, and letting your light shine for Jesus. That is an example of a terrific tagline. Just and but she shines for Jesus, and she inspires all of us to keep our hearts and minds focused that way with our writing on that way. She is the author of, I read 40, but I think I've also read 50 books now, isn't it? How many books is it, Shelley?
Yeah, I kind of lose track, but over 40 myself. And then with my husband and our publishing company, we have an independent publishing company, over 50.
Wow. Just take that in, guys. You talk about creating a body of work to get the message out about Christ on that way. Shelley has done this over and over again, so she's a great example on that. She has another hat that she wears, which I think is exciting. So when she was writing her book that I happened to be part of the launch team, and I really love to watch this develop, was Broken Crayons Still Color. She discovered her love for art and special lettering, isn't it? It's the lettering that she does, and has developed a whole other side to creativity and artwork and probably income stream. We'll have to tell you that probably some income stream for that is
definitely
on that way. But I think mostly it's kind of helped you learn to express your creativity on that. So we might talk about that a little bit too, but I just, it was fun to watch her discover that and grow that. So it's I don't know, when you step back and look at all of us as writers, how we've grown over the years, it can be amazing. And God is good. God is good. She's also the founder of Christian Book Academy. This is a membership site that I've been a member for I don't know how long now. I was I wasn't the original. I think I was in the next group that came.
Yeah, I think you've been with me for 4.5 years now.
I was with a guest about 4 or 5 years on that way. And it is a membership site that's full of encouragement and inspiration, full of resources, and just a great community, kind of like our community here, but even more rich in so many ways. So because Shelley offers not just inspiration, but a lot of practical guidance. And this is what I I always am learning there. So her love for Christ, her love for writers, her love for creativity, love for people as a whole. She is just an inspirational teacher. So Shelley, thank you for spending an hour with us today. So welcome. On that.
Yes, thank you so much. I always say that I'm kind of an accidental writer. I never dreamed of being a writer. I'm not your typical writer, but God called me to write, and he asked me to share my testimonies and to write, and it's evolved. I resigned my job and my career as a physical therapist in 2011. So it's been 8 years. I've been doing this full time now, and it's really just a privilege and an honor. And I'm so humbled that God has chosen me. And I think I've been sensing this a lot lately. God just wants our yes. He just wants our simple yes. And you never know where that may lead. I had no idea like that I would be writing these books and having this business and mentoring writers, but here I am. And so I just encourage each one of you, like, just give him your yes today and just be faithful with the little that he has put in your hands today. And he will then make you ruler over much. He will give you more as you're faithful, just one day at a time. I just recently reread the book Compound Effect, and that has been so true in my life. Just the small, consistent habits and the things that I've just done each day as God's called me to has just really ended up into, what you see today. And so I just encourage each one of you, just keep doing the small, consistent things. Even when it's behind the scenes, you don't think it matters. It matters.
It matters. It all adds up, doesn't it?
It does.
I think sometimes it gets frustrating when we don't see the progress or the accomplishment or the signed contract that we want,
right,
on that, and we miss that. And I don't know. It's just you are encouraging on that way. And who would have guessed 8 years ago that you?
I would have never. I mean, and God's taken me on a healing journey. So my book, Broken Crayons Still Color, is part of that. And I share that, but, and that's also become our best-selling book, which I didn't even want to write that book. I put it off for a year. The title was from him, everything. And it's like, when it's birthed from him, it's like, that is the best book than when I'm trying to push or figure it out or strive. But that book has a lot of my story, but God continues to heal me in layers from the trauma I had when I was young. My grandma was murdered, from my own stuff. Like, I had an addiction to internet pornography, and God has healed me and set me free. But there's been layers and layers and layers that God continues to heal me. And as he heals me, these creative outlets keep coming out. And I'm like, whoa, I wonder what's next.
It makes you excited, doesn't it? Tell us a little bit about, we'll jump a little bit ahead here, but tell us a little bit about what happened when you were doing Broken Crayons Still Color, how you found the creativity with that too. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, so I was writing the book, and actually it was my publicist at the time. I just put a meme on Facebook with that phrase and shared part of my testimony. She's like, we've got to get that book out. And I'm like, that's not a book. That was just a quote graphic. She's like, well, you've got to write that book. So then that started the process. And then a year later, in a worship service in my sister's church, I heard God say, finish the book. Not in an audible voice, but in my spirit. Have you ever had that where it's like, it's the time. It's now. This is your assignment in the kingdom of God right now. Finish the book. And I was like, okay. And this book is the most interactive book that I've ever published, but people love it. They love that it's interactive. And we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But I was wanting to include coloring pages because at that time, 2016, it was all the craze, the adult coloring book pages. But I wanted to hire someone, and I was looking, and at that time, there was not even courses on how to do it. Now there's a million. It feels like, there's a lot of resources now on how to do it. But at that time, there was not. And so I just sensed again one time God saying, you do it. And I'm like, me? I went to medical school. I was a physical therapist. I was math and science girl. I'm not an artist. I'm not a creative. It was a stretch for me even to be a writer. And I'm like, oh, no way. But I just couldn't shake it. When you just sense something from the Lord and you're like, I better obey, And so I just sat down one day. I had some broken crayons in front of me as like a reference. And I had bought a hand lettering book, and I just did it. And it was like, oh, that's actually not too bad. And the rest is history. I just got hooked on hand lettering. I love it. I now have 2 best-selling books that I've written. One is a 60-some page workbook, and I've taught workshops around the country. It's amazing, like what has been birthed out of that. But most importantly, it was self-care for me that I didn't even know I needed. So it was just a really interesting thing. And sometimes when you take that step of obedience to write the book, other things come out of it. Like it was, I really believe it was just God's, gift to me, taking that step of obedience and doing that. And it was like, it's still growing now. I'm really growing this year in watercolor and landscapes. And so it's just going to be interesting to see where it goes. But one fun thing is I've now created the artwork for several of my book covers.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so fun.
But you said you never called yourself an artist.
No. Oh, no. 8th grade was the last time, 8th grade art class was the last time I did anything. Like, I'm not even crafty. Like, I was never into that kind of stuff. But I'm realizing, like I said, as I heal, and I call myself a redeemed workaholic. The last couple years, especially last 2.5 years, God has really healed me from the striving and the workaholism. And as those layers come off, all of these beautiful things emerge, and creativity is one of them. And it is just so filling. Like, it makes me come alive. Like, I don't know if some of you feel that way with your writing. It just makes you come alive. And so it's just so such a blessing. I would just say a gift from the Lord. And I'm 44. So it's like, I've lived a lot of life without it, but that God has given me that gift now.
And you continue to grow, which is again why you mentor and inspire people, because you show people how you step out in faith and continue to grow, and how God blesses that. It really is on that. You mentioned, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. You mentioned that book being interactive, and we got Bethany right now, and Bethany has to leave a little bit early today. So let's jump to that real quick, because I know Bethany could add something about helping the readers and your groups become interactive. So Shelley, talk a little bit about how you made Broken Crayons Still Color interactive for the community and for your readers.
Yeah, so I don't even remember who it was, but someone was really talking about the power of making your books interactive. And I always have had some of that in my books, but for this book, I really decided to kind of take it to the next level. And so each chapter has a video included with it. They don't have to buy anything separately. And I tried to make them 30 minutes, but they tend to be about 38 minutes. But there's a video, and then there's a viewer's guide. So as they're watching the video, whether they're by themselves or in a group, they can fill out the viewer's guide. And then each chapter has a coloring page, like I talked about earlier. So we talk about some fairly intense topics. And so you can color, and there's a lot of science behind it and research behind it, that when you're coloring, it's getting you the right side of your brain, but it can help you process some of those emotions better. So I have them color while they're reflecting and, going through reflection questions. So I have reflection questions that they can journal. I also have scripture cards. So there's a scripture they can memorize for each chapter, and then they can print off the scripture memory cards. I had a graphic designer create those. And so there's just a lot of interactive pieces to that book. And I think one of the reasons it sells so well is people use it for book studies. So I don't call it a Bible study, because it's not technically a Bible study. There's a lot of scriptures in it, but it's more of a book study. But a lot of churches, women's groups, retreats. And so any way that you can make your book more interactive to where it's going to be used by groups is really going to help your sales. And so I really recommend, whatever book you have, memoirs can even be interactive. You can have group discussion questions for fiction books, that book clubs use. You can do Skype author visits for book clubs, offer to do those types of things. And I've just seen so many creative ways that writers do this. And if you think about it in advance, like as you're writing your book, think about, how can I make this book interactive? Like your fiction novel, it's fantasy, you could have a map created of your the area that you've created, the land you've created, or whatever you call it. But there's so many things. Like I heard one writer say that she her book is from a certain era. I think it's from World War II. And so she has recipes from that era that then book clubs can use. They can cook them. They can have that and any way you can get all five senses, so taste, touch, sight, if you can integrate these things, it really just brings it to life for your reader, and it adds so much value. People pay for my book, but they get all these extra things for free. And so, it's really adding value to them as well.
And they like that. Hey, Johnny, she talked about some historical fiction there. Do you have an idea from your experience? She's our fiction writer there from World War II or anything that you've
World War II, but in one of my contemporary romance novels, the hero has this fabulous chili recipe. And
oh yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm not a cook at all, but I thought, well, this would be a cool thing to do. Well, then I was talking to my sister about it, and she has a friend who actually has won chili competitions. And he gave us his recipe, and we kind of tweaked it for one reason, because when I went to the store to get all the ingredients, I didn't pick up all the right things, and I picked up things I shouldn't have.
Oh, man.
Like I said, not a cook. So anyway, we modified it. My sister is an excellent cook, so she can do that. We modified a little bit, which was also a good thing, because we didn't really want to steal his award-winning chili recipe. We called it Memphis Biker Chili because this guy rides a motorcycle, and I was living in Memphis at the time. And it is posted on the Country at Home, I think, .com website, because there is a woman out there who blogs, and she takes inspirational fiction, and if you can send her a recipe, she promotes your book. So it's out there on that, and I think I have it on my blog too, maybe somewhere. So yeah, Memphis Biker Chili. It's really, really good. It has a lot of sausage in it.
Yeah, that's fun.
I love it. And Rhonda in the chat said she's developing a modern recipe of aleberry, aleberry pudding, a favorite of Henry VIII. That's
cool.
Creative.
See, those are things that, like, it's those little things that connect them with your book or with your time period. And you could even have, use Canva or have someone design little recipe cards that they can print off, or something that makes it more personal. They have something they can touch and feel. It's not just digital. And, it's just a really fun way. I pulled up some of my other ideas.
Yeah.
That you can, have as bonus material too. So you can have bonus material. This is a great way to build your email list. So I'm sure you guys talk about that a lot too with marketing, but for fiction, a short story with the same characters. So, you get to know and love those characters. Character guide with names and descriptions. So sometimes with fiction novels, it's nice to have something printable like that. Like we talked about, collection of recipes featured in the book, a map, coloring and activity pages for children's books. Those are amazing. People love those. Quizzes, templates, a checklist or workbook, action guides, prayers related to the topic of the book. And I've seen people do all sorts of things. So if you just watch to what different writers are doing, obviously you don't want to copy them, but you can get great ideas. There's just so many ways to make your book more interactive and offer also additional book extras.
Oh, one other thing I like to add is, or not like to add, but I like to see in a book is a genealogy, especially if it's a historical and there's, all these families and you're trying to keep these relationships straight. And often because my stories have family things going on, even if they're just short little contemporary romances, I have to make a genealogy for myself to keep names straight and dates and all that kind of thing. And I've never included one in a book, but that is a fun thing to see. And maps, I absolutely adore maps. So
yes, you do.
I know. I'm always looking at the map, seeing how it works.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of this is visual too. I think it was Rhonda mentioned Instagram in the chat. And I just think, all these are visuals that can turn around and promote and connect with your readers anyway, and either in Pinterest or Instagram or on a Facebook feed or any of that. Any of that stuff. It just is it's just tangible. It's hands-on. Bethany, go ahead, Bethany, while we got you here, do you want to just say real quick what you're doing with the video series for your devotional? Because that's another interactive idea that maybe not everybody's aware of what you're doing right now for your newest book.
Yeah. So it's been fun with promoting these books. So the idea came from kind of taking like Red Bull, which we talked about in one of these writers chat, how a lot of their ads and marketing, their picture, their, can of soda or energy drink is like here, and then the message is here. So how do we as authors do the same thing? And so like the more we can find other people and kind of like bring them in and let them tell their story, as just because they're talking specifically about like mom tips and resources and checklists, like you were saying, like we have all that in the book because they're such like a great resource for people. But the more that we can share other people, we know then it will help the sales that way. But the focus is putting the book kind of here and then letting someone else kind of like share and talk. And so we're really like, we've grown the Facebook group, I think, to almost 500 people in just like, I think 6 days. So we're still like, people are still jumping in, but we want it to be a community where we're still doing that stuff. And so every day at 10 a.m. We do post a video and then do the watch party inside of the Facebook group so people can watch with us and comment. And then obviously the replay is going to be there, but we'll be repurposing that content for like a lot of other things. And I know I'm watching the time too, but Shelley, my gosh, so brilliant. I've always been a fan of yours. And I was thinking, and Annette, I think, mentioned this in the comments as well, so much of that stuff that you're giving away as part of the book as bonuses is great for opt-ins, like you were saying. Yeah. So all the things that you're creating when you're thinking of marketing the book, that's stuff that you can use. We're going to do a 52-week email campaign for the mom stuff. So we have 52 resources to give away. And it's great that January is right around the corner. So we're going to start it then. So like, wow, even before your book is written or while you're writing it, to be thinking about these kinds of things that you can add in there, it just makes, especially if you're going traditional, it makes your proposal that much more rich. And then no matter how you're publishing it, it makes it better for your audience, which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So that was my spill.
Yeah. If you go to brokencransbook.com, you can see that's where people can get access to all my book extras. So they're signing up for my email list, and then I can follow up with them. They also, get other things too, but I think, that's a great idea, Bethany. And when I did my Broken Crayons book, I actually also did a podcast and I interviewed a lot of people. I think, Jeannie, you were one of the interviews. And so, telling other people's stories can be so powerful as well.
And what I'm thinking as we talk about this idea, again, the power of community, of working together. Not only is both Shelley and Bethany's idea, not only did that in reality promote their book, their message out there, it also promoted somebody else. And there's something about the synergy of that turned around, and it just builds the kingdom. I think it builds the kingdom of God.
You're always, yes. I'll put mine in the comments.
No, I want to hear what you have to say too, because this is really personal. But Bethany interviewed Jill, and as a mom watching that interview, and
Jill's your daughter. Jill's my daughter.
Yeah, Bethany's my daughter. Jill's my daughter. Bethany interviewed Jill, and of course they're promoting this book called They Call Me Mom. And I will tell you, watching my two daughters talk about mothering together was just like, oh, my heart.
Yes.
It was the coolest thing. And then, so it's not all about me. Annette has a wonderful example in the comment. Annette Whipple has written a book, The Laura Ingalls Wilder Companion. And her publisher put a postcard out to share at conferences, which includes a recipe for Johnny cakes. So that is a really cool idea.
Yeah.
As Bethany said, it's not just the book cover, it's something useful. So it's probably not going to go in the trash. It'll probably go in the box. So great idea, Annette, and congratulations.
That is great. Now this is exciting, but we better get back to our topic. I jumped all over the place. I'm sorry, guys, if you're watching this, but that was exciting.
And I also wanted to mention real quick with the interactive thing is I also included a leader's guide in the back. So, that way leaders have instructions and, how they can use the book and discussion questions and all of that. So there's so many things we could talk about regarding that, but I just want to mention that as well.
That is very good. So, and then again, we could always use this group for brainstorming for ideas too. So
yeah,
keep that in mind, you guys. But actually the topic for today is organizing your book topic. So it's almost before we got the cart before the horse before the cart. cart before the horse. I've tried that, right? I'm that way. But Shelley's a good organizer. She's and about when we have a topic idea, can you give us some tips on starting, what we would do, and things to keep in mind? Can you share some ideas on that, Shelley?
Yeah, so this can relate to anything, whether you're doing your marketing, and you need to organize the 52 different things you're going to be sending out. That does sound overwhelming, but
Yeah.
as a redeemed workaholic, I'm like, whoo, I have a lot more margin now, and I try not to commit to too much, but that's exciting. But whether it's your marketing you need to organize, or it's your book topic, or even this interactive stuff, you want to start organizing ideas for that. So, it seems like, to me, it's almost like the things that I wrote out to share seemed like common sense. But, I'm a systems person. And so it's almost like second nature to me now. And I realize, like, sometimes the things that you're really good at and the things that you think don't really matter are actually something that other people can really benefit from. It's like, my friend's really good at finances, and it doesn't seem like a big deal for her, but she shared with me some different ways to do spreadsheets and tracking, and it's changed things for me this year. So anyways, the first thing I just want to say, and it sounds very simple, but know how your brain works. Know what works best for you. So I could tell you exactly what I do, and you could try to replicate that exactly and then fail miserably. And so the reason is because we're all created differently. And so I always like to say, don't try to shove a round peg into a square hole. Don't try to use an organization system that your brain is not set up for success. So know what works best for you. Are you a visual person? Are you a technology person? Are you a paper and pen person? Like, what is the way that your brain works best? And, make sure that you start with a system that you can sustain. So what kind of organizational person are you, Jean?
I'm a paper person. I will tell you that. I agree with what Rhonda put in the chat, that spreadsheets drive us crazy.
Yes.
Oh, that is too complicated when we get into spreadsheets. But I like calendars. If I could sit there, and I am a goal setter, so I like to set goals on a calendar page. And darn, Bethany's got me hooked on happy planners, and I got a whole slew of happy planners here now. That way, look at her. She's
so happy right now. I'm like resisting the urge to grab a stack of them.
Happy planners. They are so addicting, all their stuff. But anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm a paper person. I don't know about Bethany or Johnny.
Oh.
Both, I guess, because I am sort of depending now more on my calendar on my phone than I used to. I used to be really resistant to that. So I am sort of moving more to my phone, it's been a slow process, but an interesting process, and it really has been a helpful thing. I kind of do like spreadsheets. I've got a very convoluted and complex word count goal spreadsheet spreadsheet, but I create them. But it is like it gives that side of my brain something to do, and then that frees me to do the creative stuff. But I have,
and if that works for you, you do it, girl.
Yeah, it does, because I have found over the years, I used to be like more this, but the more I write, and I think I've talked about this before, the more I write, the less I'm this, and I'm sort of like squiggly, and I'm not as detail oriented, nor as organized, nor as goal oriented as I used to be. So I sort of have to keep that contained a little bit.
Yeah. So, once you kind of know, like, what is it that you navigate towards, or what's worked for you in the past, think about that, or pay attention as you try things and see what really works for you. But realize the second step is to develop a system. So a system is something you're going to do the same way every time. And it doesn't mean it can't change. Systems evolve over time. So there was a time I was using Evernote all the time. Now I don't use it as much. I use Trello. I use my notes app on my phone when I'm taking walks or runs. Like, that's when I get all my ideas, right? So my notes app, and a tip about the notes app, if you use it, you can categorize by folders. So I have a folder for Christian Book Academy. I have a folder for, personal stuff. I have a folder for my books. So, you can categorize it by folders, so everything's organized. So create a system. And by system, I want you to think closet organization system. We can all picture that, right? Now, can you picture a closet with no shelving, nothing in there, and everything just shoved in? You got that picture?
Mm-hmm. Clutter.
Is it going to be easy or hard to find something?
Hard.
It's going to be like we all have junk drawers probably, or something around our house, a closet, something where, it's just everything is shoved in there. And so I want you to think about your system being a closet, and it can be as simple as a simple rod and one shelf above it, or it can be as complex as you see some of these, like, that has stuff for all these shoes and, these things that, all these shelves and, drawers and everything. But it can be very simple or it can be very complex. You be you. But I want you to think about how you're creating a system, and it's going to categorize things in a certain way and in a certain place that you know exactly where to find it. My husband is a person that does piles. He just has piles of stuff, but he knows exactly where something is.
Wow.
He has a system. So if I try to change his piles or move things around, then he gets all disoriented. But, don't feel like you have to use a digital system. You can stick with paper and pen. Just find a system and stick to it. And then, like I said, it can evolve over time, but that way you're going to know exactly where to find something when you need it. And, as you are capturing information for a book, it's really important to also capture the reference. So sometimes I capture something and it's a screenshot or it's something, and I wrote in my notes app or something, but I forget to add where I heard it or where I got it. So, I know we're probably all doing that, but that's just a little reminder to always do that so you can give proper attribution, if you end up sharing that in your book.
It is so much smarter to do it as you do it, not to have to go back and try to find them later. So that is a great tip.
Yeah. And realize that some of the things you're going to capture may not be for your book. It may be for a blog post. It may be for a podcast interview, like what I'm doing right here, or this is not information I put in my academy, but it's information that I had collected, and started working through, and I can share it in something like this. It could be for a social media post. So, don't, categorize if it's a good idea or a bad idea, a good quote, a bad quote, or just capture it all, because, there is probably an opportunity for you to use that sometime. So I just wanted to share several ideas of what you can do and things that I've seen as I've coached and mentored writers over the years that have worked for different people. And that way you can kind of just have, it's almost like going down what's it called? Like a buffet, and you kind of see, okay, I like this. I don't want that. I want this, and you can kind of see what might work for you. And also I would love, after I share, just to hear some of your ideas as well, because we all have our own systems and our own things that work for us. So one thing I've seen work really well for writers is sticky notes. And different colors of sticky notes. Yeah, Bethany has hers.
I use them in my happy planner, of course.
Yeah. Jeannie. Yeah. I have my sticky notes. I think I keep them in business. But sticky notes, but also I like doing different colors. And then you can have each color representing a different book, a different topic, a different thing, and you can categorize it that way. So I've helped people take their journals and take that journal information and organize it for a book. And one way that I have them do that is to first decide on categories. Do you want to organize it by topic, like faith, or, just different topics, that you might be writing on? Do you want to categorize it by the season of your life? This was when I was in college. This was when I was a young mom. This is, whatever. Choose, again, it's a system, right? You're choosing how you're categorizing it. You're choosing how you're setting up your closet organization system. And then take different colors of Post-it notes or those little flags, the little things or whatever, and as you're going through your journals, you flag it. Each color represents a different topic or a different season. And then you can easily go back at a different time and find exactly what you want. I know, Jean, you put an index kind of like at the back of your journals. And so there's a lot of ways to use sticky notes. But one of the ways I've seen writers use it is, writing things out and then posting it. Like you can have it on a wall where you put all the sticky notes and you start to arrange it in an order. Or you can have it like in a 3-ring binder, have paper in there and put, have each paper represent something different and have different sticky notes on that so that, it's kind of organized in there. I've also seen writers use it to outline their book. So to have a big poster board, and then each sticky note is a different chapter. And then you have the, what you're going to say in each chapter underneath that in other sticky notes. And so there's so many different ways to use a sticky note, but there's something really powerful about the visual, but also writing it down. There's also research that shows when you're writing something down, it's really powerful. And so index cards also can be similar. You can use them in a similar way.
I think there's more colors available in the sticky notes.
Yeah.
The sizes of index cards. But yes, I love that. You mentioned the journal too. You talked about sticky notes and journaling. That is something I learned from Shelley. I do a yearly summary in my journals, so I can quickly go back to that page and find out where it was in the previous pages each year. But I never thought about finding themes and categories to what I was journaling. And my journal's got so many neat ideas of examples to use and illustrations to use in either speaking or writing or for devotionals on that. And I never thought about categories with sticky notes until I learned that from Shelley. So that the sticky notes is a great idea.
Yeah. And again, just use what works best for you. For me, I use a combination of writing it down and then putting it into a digital format. So a lot of times I'll just take a blank piece of copy paper, and I'm always stealing from my printer. And I love using my fountain pen. I don't know why, but it just feels more creative, or like it just flows better when I'm writing with my fountain pen. But I have my blank copy paper, and I've tried all the different planners. I've tried all the different things, and it just works better for me to have like the blank piece of paper, and then I'll just do a brain dump. So like a lot of times, I'll just sit down and start writing things down, and then I'll categorize it in a mind map. So I love mind mapping. It's a digital tool that you can use. And I recently have been using it because I'm completely recreating all the training inside Christian Book Academy, updating everything. And it's overwhelming. So I'm using a mind map to keep everything organized. The thing I love is you can nest things inside one category and then shut it down. So it doesn't feel overwhelming because you can close it and you don't have to see everything at one moment, but it's all there and it's all captured. Yeah, but I've had Academy members that they'll use a mind map, but they'll draw it out. So they'll just draw a circle in the middle, and it's their book title, and then little lines out with little circles, and each circle is one chapter or, one idea, and then they have other lines going out to that. So if you're more of a paper and pen person, you can use mind mapping in that way as well. I love the digital because I can move it around. So
do you have a particular one that you use, an app that you like? There's different mind map apps.
Yeah, there's so many mind mapping, but I just use the free version. It's called Free Mind, and you can download it for free. And that's just what I've been using. But they have some that are paid versions that then you can sync with your iPhone or your iPad and your computer and all of that. I haven't decided to invest in that yet because the Free Mind works fine for me and what I need. But yeah, so a lot of times I'll just do the big brain dump on paper or, something like that, or I'll just have all these little sticky notes or all these little scraps of paper that I'm collecting. You can put it in a folder. You can put it like on a clipboard, clip it in there, just somewhere. Again, just have a system where where you can find it. And then I'll sit out and I'll, put all those things out. I'll do the writing out of just the brain dump, and then I'll transfer it into a digital format. But I find that if I just try to do digital first, it doesn't flow quite as well. And so again, you have to figure out what works best for you. Some other things that I've seen people do is like, I've heard someone say they'll just take a piece of paper and they'll fold it in half. They'll fold it in half again, and then they'll fold it in half again. So there's like 8 different sections then on this paper. And then what they'll do is they'll just put this like in a, you can put it in a clipboard, you can fold it up, put it in your purse, in your pocket, and then they just put one idea per little spot. So it's kind of like drawers, you know, in your closet. You know, it's like little spots for each idea, for each quote, and you don't have all those scattered little pieces of paper. It's all on one piece of paper, and then they take that and organize it later. So that's an idea as well. I also love Trello. Trello is it's a visual way to organize things, and you can again move things around. They have checklists in there. You can attach pictures if you're doing research. You know, you can do pictures, you know, links, you know, all sorts of things in there. And you know, basically you can do the same thing in Evernote as well with, and you can use their hashtag system, but there's so many things that you can do. It's just a matter of like trying a few things and seeing what works best for you. The number one piece of advice I have for you though, is to develop a system of how you save things on your computer. So I started doing this, I think in 2015. I completely reorganized my files on my computer, and it made an amazing difference. First of all, I was really starting to hire a team at that time. So, you know, as you grow, if you do grow and you have people helping you, you know, then they know exactly where to find things too, because how many of you know sometimes it's like, oh, my computer's a little bit of a mess, trying to delegate or help, you know, tell someone where to find something. So I always create a folder for each book. And then I have a folder for, you know, the Kindle version of that book, version, the audiobook version, the marketing, you know, and you know, you can have a different system, whatever works, like I said, whatever works for you, but, you know, have a way that you're saving everything and then do it the same way for every project. So that way, again, you're developing a system, and they say the more you have repeatable systems, which basically is just a checklist, you're doing things the same way, the less brain power you're going to use. How many of you want to save brain power? And so do that now. Like if you don't have that, if things are just kind of randomly saved in different places, make sure you go and organize your computer files so that they're organized. Everything's in one place. Your research is in one folder. Your quotes are in one folder. Your images and even like your image sources and, you know, all of that sort of thing are in one folder. And you're going to be so happy that you did.
Yeah, and creating those folders on your computer as you go along really does in the long run save yourself time.
Yes.
We had some talk in the chat about Scrivener, which I think is similar to Trello, if I'm saying that right. I'm not 100% sure in that, but
I think it's different. Yeah, it's different.
And that, but it's a way of saving and capturing different things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great writing tool. I have not personally learned Scrivener, but I know a lot of people love it. I had someone create some training on Scrivener for Christian Book Academy, and people love it, you know.
On that way. I don't know if Bethany or Johnny, if you want to jump in on organizing your book and files. Do you have a tip?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. I'm like Shelley, I've got just different files for different things. Like I try to put all drafts in a file because I do it. I save my drafts every day with a new date on it so that I can sort of have that continuity in marketing. Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add. I will say Scrivener though is more, it started out as a screenwriting program, and now it's kind of been used for novelists too, and people use it now for all kinds of things. And it's one of those programs that has a bit of a learning curve, but people who love it really love it, and people who don't really don't. So
yeah.
It just kind of depends. But they do have a really nice, I believe they still do this. They let you have 30 days to try it, and that's not 30 consecutive days. You get to try it you get to be on it 30 different days, and if you don't like it, you can, I don't even think they charge you until after, like the 31st time.
Yeah, I know a lot of novelists like it because you can
Mhm.
have like these cork boards. So it's like,
Yeah.
like visually, like, attaching something to a cork board, and they will do character studies, and they'll put all the things for one character on that board. And but you can do that in any of these tools in any way that you want to do it. It's just finding a system that works for you, and then sticking to that. But one thing I do in my folders as well is I have, like, let's say for the book, like you said, having a drafts folder, I have a folder it's just titled old. And I, I move any old drafts into that. And then I have only the newest and the most current, because I have uploaded a wrong draft, or a wrong, I've done something where I uploaded the wrong one before, years and years and years ago. But it's like, now I know I keep all of that separate, and I always know. And like you said, I put the date, or I write on their final, or whatever it is. But make sure you have a system of keeping those things separate as well.
I will say Leslie Lowe talked about in the chat about a journal for each of her novels, and I kind of do that too. I usually the same blank book as often as I can. But like, this is my one for Annie's Fiction, who I write several books for, and I mean, it's really it's just a mess. I mean, look at those things crossed out. But I can scribble on it, and I can make notes, and like I list names and then I choose my characters' names. It's just all kinds of things, editing notes, questions, my little genealogies go in there, just all kinds of stuff goes in it. And it really is a nice little way to find information quickly rather than trying to find it on a computer, and I can just write it down really quick. So I really like doing that. So I think blank books are a great tool for novelists, but I mean, not everyone wants to do that, but for me it works.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea, having one dedicated journal for the book, instead of having it mixed in with other business or marketing or other, just other random things that you're doing. Having one dedicated book, because again, think about the closet organization. You have one shelf for this, one shelf for that. So you always know just to go to that journal for that book. And then again, you can also use some of the other ideas. You could color code things, or have little tabs, or so have a little index in the back or something, so that you can find things really easy in that journal. But I love that idea.
Love it. And it's a place for brainstorming too, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you can write all that stuff out. And then, like, I know with one book that I wrote, one of my contemporary romances, and I was kind of having trouble, like, how's this all going to wrap up? And I actually read the draft and then wrote out all the unanswered questions and sort of put those in an order then, and then I was able to finish the story. When I get my edits back, I go through it and I fix the easy stuff, but I make notes about the more complex stuff so I can think about it later, and the page number, and everything, and then you can go back. So I mean, there's just, and it's all in just one little blank book. So yeah,
that's great. Someone in the comments said something about it's good to have a paper backup for computer files, but it's also good to have a cloud backup. So I know some of the writers in my academy have actually lost their books, like literally lost everything. And so it's disheartening. And, sometimes God uses that to write something new and fresh, and it was better than it was before, but please, please, please back up. I heard somebody at a writers conference say, even Jesus saves.
That's right.
But please, please, please have a backup, whether it's, Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever it is you use, OneNote or whatever. Even somebody that I knew as a writer, she had a USB backup, but she had this physical USB backup to her computer, but they were both in her house. There was a fire and she lost both. And so if you don't have a cloud backup, if for some reason you have a break-in and it gets stolen, you have a flood or a fire. So please, 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 please back up.
It's a good reminder that we need to say all the time to one another.
Yeah.
Really do on that way. We've got about 5 minutes left before we bring everybody on. Do you have some final tips for us, Shelley?
So the first one was to know how your brain works. The second one is to develop a system and, keep using that, your closet organization system. The third one is, just to continually be asking, is it for now or is it for later? So sometimes, we as creatives, we're always getting ideas, and it's good to capture those ideas. But sometimes I think we put the pressure on ourselves that we have to do something with that idea. Sometimes all we're doing it with that idea is filing it for later. And so, that's something. Then the third step is just to ask yourself, is it for now or is it for later? And it might not be for this book project or this marketing campaign, but capture it. Find a way with the system you're using to capture it, and then take pressure off. We cannot do all the things. And as writers, we have so much on us, right? And so we have those ideas, and sometimes they can feel like a blessing, sometimes a curse, but realize that it's a blessing and just file it away. Let your brain know, I've captured that. It's filed away. I will get to it at a later time.
I like the image of, I'll say that's a great idea, but you're going to sit in the parking lot.
Yes, the parking garage.
For a parking garage for now. And when I need the car, I can go get it. It's there, and stuff. But it does. I'm the type of personality that likes to get things done, and so sometimes to have a full parking garage is frustrating to me because I want to get to some of these things that I don't on that way. I love all the images you shared with us, Shelley, and that stuff. That the whole idea about how would we organize our closet is super. One quick computer tip. Bethany, were you going to say something?
Nope, just coming back in.
Okay, got it. You're back on that. Computer tip that you shared, I know, in the Christian Book Academy, that when you were initially organizing your files, is you put numbers in front of them. Didn't you put like number one was all? Can you briefly explain that system? Because that saved my day. That helped me organize my computer files.
Yeah. So I have like big major folders, like one might be social media, one might be Christian Book Academy, one might be Your Creative Adventure, which is my whole art stuff. So I have the big folders. One is just Body and Soul Publishing, which is all our books and stuff. And then within those, like I number those. And one of the reasons to number is if you use a Mac, it does not order it by alphabetical order like Windows or a PC does. So when I switched from a PC to a Mac, it drove me crazy because there was not an organization system. Whereas if you put a number in front, then it will always show up as that order. And so what happens is then your brain knows, like it's like the shelves on a closet. You know exactly which shelf your shorts are on, your shirt is on. And then inside of those, then I number the folders inside of that. So for, it might be a book that I'm working on. And so, I'll number those. And so it just really helps keep things organized. And again, it just gives your brain, it just makes your brain not work as hard, because then once you set it up, then you know exactly where things are. It looks exactly the same every time. Whether you're using a PC or a Mac, it's always going to be organized the same way. And it just really has been helpful for me.
And numbers, it was so overwhelming when I first thought, I've got to organize my files better. And, I had all these files. So once I figured out, I think I ended up with like about 8 broad categories.
Yeah.
Once I got everything shifted into those 8 categories, then I could tackle that number one at once and then get them reorganized, and number 2 and get them reorganized. It just became more doable. I'd literally sit down at night with my laptop in front of the TV and just move files back and forth, and it just grouped them. And then I was able to organize from there. So it really became much more manageable than using the numbers for me. So I always thank you for that benefit.
Yeah. And again, you just want to choose what are your main broad categories, and then, nest everything under that. And again, it's just developing that system. It does take time, but it saves time in the end. You're not searching for, have you ever been in your computer searching for a file and you couldn't remember where you saved it?
Yeah.
You know, it really will save you time in the end if you just take maybe an hour and just figure out like, okay, what are my main categories, start setting them up. And then like Jeannie said, you can just little by little, work on that. But I did that 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And I couldn't imagine living my life without that system.
Once you have a system set up, it really flows.
Yeah.
Well, we'll invite everybody to come on back in for the closing. So come on back in, and then if you're unmuted or if you want to come back online, come on back in on that way. And as we wrap up, can you give us a brief overview of what Christian Book Academy is, Shelley?
Yeah, Christian Book Academy. You can find it at christianbookacademy.com. It's an online membership community where you learn to write, self-publish, and market your books. And so we start with the first draft challenge where you're writing your first draft, and it's practical training. So you get step-by-step training from myself as well as our mentor team. I think we have 10 people now on our mentor team. Jean Wise is one of them. I pay people to come and be mentors because I don't have all the answers. So between one of us, we have over 120 years of publishing experience. Between all of us, someone will have your answer. And so you have the practical step-by-step training in the member area. And then you have the Facebook group, which is a community. And our motto is no question ever goes unanswered. We pray for you every week. You can have specific prayer requests. You can get feedback, so you can give like a 500-word excerpt and get feedback from editors and other people on our mentor team. So it's just a great resource as you're writing your book. So would love for any of you to join us. You can, like I said, check it out at christianbookacademy.com.
And then I put a link on also in the chat there, and if you're interested, you can go there and learn more about it. So on that way, anybody have a question or something you want to add while we got a couple minutes left, that those of you that have come on back on? Annette, I'm going to pick on you real quick, Annette. You had put in the chat, and I made a note about research notebooks. Nancy Sanders, can you say a little bit about that?
She uses, paper notebooks for her research projects. She has multiple blog posts about these, and she's been blogging about it recently. She has a fairly new book called Jane Austen for Kids. And so even when she went to a conference, she used one notebook for a conference, but she also makes a table of contents before starting a notebook. Just like you would a bullet journal, she page numbers throughout so that she can keep her thoughts organized. And I haven't read all of the posts, but I would just say, go to Nancy Sanders' blog. And I actually think she has a few of them. So I'm not sure which one, but she was a great resource. And as a paper and pen kind of person, I really appreciate that for research. And, when I've gone to sites for research myself, I take the pen and paper, and I do dedicate a single notebook to that. But she just had some neat ideas on how to better use the notebooks, and multiple notebooks for one project. So
on that way, they're saying the link doesn't work that I included on there. So if you need to just get more information on Christian Book Academy, christianbookacademy.com will probably get you to that. And thank you for sharing that, because it's fun to see other authors' examples of how they do their notebooks, and she might be a really good source on that. Any last minute questions while we still have Shelley on here before we finish the recording, and we'll go for a few minutes in the after party? Any final questions?
I will share just one little tip when it comes to file naming. If you're like me and you've got 7 drafts of the same chapter, don't start with the name of the chapter, start with the number, because then they'll always be consecutive. So it's 01, and then I use an underline because you're not supposed to use a dash, and then the name of the chapter, 02, and that way they're kept in chronological order of when I worked on them.
Oh, that is
Good
great.
idea.
I do that as well.
Yeah, that is super. Shelley,
really
thank
good.
you. Thank you for being with us while we're still recording next week. Melissa or Johnny? Is this our Christmas one?
Melissa, take it away.
Our Christmas one?
Yes, it is the Christmas one we're sharing. I wasn't totally clear. We're sharing favorite Christmas memories as writers, I believe.
So we're going to put a lot of you on the spot too. So
Yeah.
start thinking
It'll be an
about,
open mic.
yeah, we're doing an open mic. Just get us in the Christmas mood, and especially as writers, what favorite Christmas memories as a writer. So we'll have kind of a sharing next week. So start thinking about that. And that, yeah, we're all kind of thinking that sounded like a good idea several weeks ago.
We might also talk about Christmas gifts, because I know Rhonda said she was going to ask Santa for a Happy Planner punch, and I thought, oh, my son asked me the other day what I wanted for Christmas. Maybe that's what I'll tell him too.
We'll get on going on Happy Planners next week.
Yeah, that punch thing. So we also could talk maybe about gifts to give writers that would be fun, and things that we would like to see in our stocking or under our tree.
Once we finish the recording, I want to just thank again Shelley for spending time with us today. It's just so inspirational. Loved the images, and especially all the ideas about making your book interactive too, and stuff. And I encourage you to check out christianbookacademy.com if you're interested in the mentoring group. It is such an inspirational group, and like I said, it's so you find answers and you learn and you grow together, and it's a family of faith. It's a family of faith together. So we make our light shine for Jesus, right, Shelley?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a privilege and a pleasure. And I thought over the years, that I was going to close it down or that I wasn't going to continue it. And this last year, I really felt like the Lord's like, no, there is a reason for this. And there are writers that need this. We need community, right? We need prayer, because this is not an easy thing, and there's a lot of resistance, especially when you're a Christian writer. And so I have just really been we just relaunched it with a new name, and with I'm recreating all the content. It's a huge undertaking, but I know God's called me to do it, and I'm so excited of the testimonies that come.
Great. Well, thank you for being with us. We'll invite everybody that's here to stay on after we finish the recording, and we'll have a little after party. Other than that, we'll see you all next week. And thank you for those of you that were here today, or those of you that watch the replay. And a special thanks to Shelley for being with us today. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.